What I didn't know was how to get into this industry that I loved. And one of my why not me moments happens with a kid that I grew up with, this guy named Josh Henderson, who's an actor. And Josh went to high school with me, lived down the street from me. He could sing better than me. He tries out for this reality show. He books the reality show. That ends up turning into him becoming an actor. He was on the show called 101 with Kyla Pratt, and then he was on Desperate Housewives as Nicolette Sheridan's nephew for a little bit, and then he booked this Stephen Bochco show that he was the lead of called Over There on USA. And I remember looking at Josh being like, well, why not me? Why can't I do what Josh is doing? What I didn't know is that Josh was taking time to go to acting class. I didn't know that at the time. But so super randomly, Josh at this time had a very great career, and he was dating a very famous woman. And there was a birthday party for her. I got invited to the birthday party. I was told to wear all white. I wore all white and a camel jacket because I wanted to stick out just in case there were any agents in the room.
Kind of like your ensemble right now.
Yeah.
Kind of similar. Almost similar.
And it kind of worked. I'm telling a story to like a couple of people about what it was like living in a model house. At one point, I lived in a model house in New York that had 16 dudes in it. It was a 2-bedroom house. Let y'all do the math. There were 2 bathrooms. And so I was telling this story about like what that experience was like. And nobody's getting up to go to class in the morning, by the way. Instead, everybody's like, hey, bro, did you go to the gym today? Cool. Your pecs look great. Like that was my Monday through Friday. So anyway, I'm telling this story, and this agent walks up to me, and he's like, hey, are you an actor? And I'm like, yeah, of course I'm an actor, man. Where you been? Like, I'm in LA, right? And he's like, I want you to come to my office, meet my team, bring your headshot, bring your resume. I had no idea what a headshot or a resume was. None. So I typed up every job I had had since I was 15 and a half years old. I'm being serious, y'all. I worked the stockroom at the Gap. I worked the stockroom at Old Navy. I worked at Smoothie King. I cut salads in the college cafeteria, in my cafeteria on college. I literally typed up every job I had and my modeling jobs and like mixed them in. And I took some pictures that I had from my modeling. I go to this dude's office. I slide everything across his desk. He looks up at me and he goes, you have no idea what the hell you're doing, do you? And I was like, no, but I swear to you, if you just give me a chance, I will figure this out. And he goes, okay, cool. Here's a list of places to take headshots, a list of places to go to class. I call everybody. I go and audit a few classes. It's all crazy expensive. Headshots are like $500 for an hour shoot, a 2-hour shoot. Classes are like $300, $400, $500 a month. I can't afford it. I'm selling shoes in the Beverly Center, y'all. LA's expensive. I can't. I end up auditing a few classes and thinking like, I got it. It's just 2 people talking. That's acting. That's it. I ended up getting sent out to all these auditions that I had no idea were going to be the thing that they ultimately became. On the back end, 6 months later, he calls me and he's like, hey man, this isn't working out. You're not getting good feedback. You're not getting callbacks. Like, I'm sorry, we're just not gonna work together anymore. And I was like, I don't wanna be no starving artist. I don't care about that. I'm not gonna drive all across LA to put money in a meter, and then my money runs out because they're running late, so I get a ticket.
This is before GPS.
Way before GPS. So I had a TomTom book. Yeah, you gotta like go to a book and find. And so
they're called maps, by the way, guys.
Not Google Maps.
Real paper maps.
So I end up going from there to the next 2 years. I was just like, I'm just going to work. Just get a job. I went back to retail. It was easy. There was a lot of turnover. It was a thing that I knew. So I go back into it. I worked my way up into the West Coast regional manager in about 2.5 years of a job. Fake it till you make it. And my boss called me and she goes, hey, I'm going to let you go. I'm sorry. I just got let go. They're probably going to come let you go next. And this was like right before, this was like right in the middle of the financial crisis. And I was like, oh, okay. And she was telling me to go like call a headhunter so I could start looking for another job. And all I could remember was sitting there thinking like, I came to LA to act. And I was too much of a coward, too afraid. And my pride was too big to like actually let myself go through the process that I needed to go through to be an actor. I needed to go to class. I needed to get the rejection. I needed to understand why my auditions weren't good. I needed to put my hours in and my time in like every other actor who you've ever seen on television, for the most part, has done. And I was just like, I'm just going to do it. I'm going to spend the next 2 years doing that. Again, I got a ton of part-time jobs. I went to acting class. I would not see a rep, a manager, an agent, anything for like a good year and a half, 2 years. Went to a workshop, got an agent. Went to a casting workshop, got a manager. That turned into me auditioning a bunch. I got sent the audition for The Game. And I was like, is this show even still on air? Who is watching this? And they made me audition 8 times for that show, which is not normal. 4 or 5 for a pilot sometimes, especially if you're going from like the very first call of an audition.
But to be fair, you had a day player GH credit.
I had a day player. That's all I had.
Right. So
that's really all.
They still had to check
That's
you
all
out.
I had.
Yeah.
They did.
8's excessive, but
So I end up doing it, and the process is really crazy. It's really intense. I'm thinking, clearly I'm not doing something right. So like, why do they keep calling me back? Or like, either if you like me, then make the decision and just give me the job. What I didn't know is that Keke Palmer originally was supposed to do the job. And Keke had to step away because of another commitment. So they were actually recasting, and Lauren London ended up in the role. And I didn't know that. But back in my head, I'm like, I just don't understand why y'all don't give me the job. Or let me go. Just like, let's stop doing this. I end up, the process to get a television show is something called a test. And 3, 4, 5 actors, usually 3, all get a contract. You find out you negotiate for how much you're going to make per episode. It is more money than you've ever even thought about being able to make in your life. You sign a paper, and then you go audition.
it's the biggest mind fuck you could ever go through as acting.
And by the way, when you do it, you're sitting next to the actor who you're going to audition against. You're sitting next to the person you're going to audition against. It's 3 of you guys all sitting there like, oh, this job is going to change my life, and I want this thing so bad. And then you look at each other and you kind of look alike. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're kind of like, oh, I see why all 3 of us are here. And then one by one, you go into a room in front of producers like Mike and directors and showrunners, and you do it. But the problem is I can hear what the actor in the room is doing while I'm sitting outside. So if they start laughing at something he does, I'm like, oh, well, maybe I should do what he did in that moment. It really messes up your head. Also, again, you just signed a contract to make a ton of money. So like the stakes are so high, it's a crazy feeling. That was The Game. I tested against 4 people. One of them was Edwin Hodge.
I love it.
Edwin is Aldous Hodge's brother. Al is they're both phenomenal actors. They grew up in this business, very loved, very respected. Edwin's deal didn't close, so he actually left the audition.
That's bad representation.
I auditioned against a singer named Mario, and you say he's just a friend, right? I auditioned against another guy named Othello, actually. And so it ended up being the 3 of us. Lauren London walks in. Lauren London had done a bunch of movies, and she had a movie career. She also had a personal life that at times was very public. And Othello walks up to her and is like, hey, ain't you friends with the Kardashians? She completely shuts down. She literally is like, do you read People magazine? Like, literally says that and then completely shuts down. So I'm like, oh, he's not getting it. I was like, oh, they're not going to have any chemistry in there. I'm good. Mario is there, and I'm like,
He's got famous singers.
Mario is famous. Yeah. Like, Mario pulled up in like a beautiful Benz. He's got a Gucci jacket on that he told me how much it costs. I'm like, is he playing mental warfare with me? And we're in the BT offices, and there's all these TV screens, and Mario is watching the screens, and he's kind of like dancing while he's watching the screens. And I'm like, I don't understand what's happening right now. Like, what? This dude is reading People magazine, and this dude is dancing in front of they don't want me. Why am I here? Ultimately, we all go in. We all audition for it. The next person to actually audition for it. So in this last piece, sorry, when they do these tests, they have 7 days after the test to tell you if you got the job. 5 business days after the test to tell you if you got the job. They still weren't sure if they wanted me, and they tested Jussie Smollett 5 days later. How crazy is that?
Did you say?
How crazy is that?
Well, you won.
I won. Anyway, I end up getting the job. I find out I get the job. I had never actually told my parents that I was acting at that point. My parents thought I was in LA just like literally just losing my soul. They prayed for me a lot. I had never told them that I was acting. And it wasn't until I booked that job and I told them, and they still had no idea what it meant. They were like, okay. So do you have a job? Like, where do you go to work every day? Like, they literally had no idea what it meant. And from there, I actually got to go like work out with the UCLA football team a few times to get like in shape and kind of get ready to play a receiver on this show. And then finally I went to Atlanta and joined that show on its 100th episode. We were only supposed to do one season. We ended up doing 4 because the numbers ended up being so good.